Welcome back to another episode of the EMS Handoff podcast. I'm David, and for my absent co-host, Eric McCullough and Bradley Dean, they'd like to say hello, but we're going to come back to another one of our guests today, a renowned superstar of EMS within the state of Tennessee. You know, so I've already set that bar high.
Well, you should have done that.
So, you know, the question is, do we limbo or do we try to jump? So, this is Brent Dyer from Sumner County EMS.
Sumner EMS. Yep.
So tell us who you are. I've already said where you come from.
Yep. So we work up there, Sumner County, just north of Nashville. Brent Dyer, affectionately known. Everybody at EMS has got a nickname.
Everybody.
You know? So Chubby Love. You know, there's a long story where that comes from.
I'm sure.
It'll be a good one to tell someday.
someday. Maybe not for everybody, but you never know.
Yeah. But yeah, man.
All right.
That's what we do.
Well, as we do this, we like to get some of the speakers throughout. So you've actually had a breakout session and a pre-conference.
We did.
We're not going to replicate your breakout because we're not dropping any mics.
All right. Okay? Yeah, this stuff looks expensive.
I got to pay for those, so I'll send you a bill if you might drop it. But you can drop some mics because we're actually getting ready to talk about a topic that probably everywhere in the country really needs to get into. So we're going to talk about the National Registry Advanced EMT testing.
All right, yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
So as we take a look at that test, in comparison to EMT and even paramedic, it seems to be one of the most difficult for students to comprehend. So first off, what brought your interest to helping people with this?
Well, that's awesome. You know, I spoke at a lot of conferences, leadership, that's my favorite topic, leadership and pediatrics. But as far as getting involved, and we've yet to ever charge a dime for this, but helping people find success with the National Registry tests is, I remember having to take that for my fourth time. Now, back we didn't have AEMT. It was something different here in Tennessee. But I'm talking paramedic tests. And I remember feeling so downtrodden and so just, you know, a lot of bad emotions. You know, you feel like failure, you know, and then nobody in this business is getting rich, especially in your entry-level years.
Right.
Blessed now to be in some better positions with a lot of years of hard work. But back then, I remember, you know, you got to make sure that you can still pay your electric bill, you know, and your rent or your house payment or whatever, and then be able to afford to retest that month. And there are a lot of people that show up to us needing help. And one of the things they're struggling over is some financial struggles. Because they're being dimed and dollared to death. They're in the beginning of their career.
Right.
They're not well established a lot of times just yet. And all that being said is, so they may have that as a worry, or what I call a fear.
Right.
And, you know, fear's like love. I tell people in these classes, I'm like, anybody in here ever been in love? You know, kind of laugh, you know, and I'm like, well, at one point in your life, when you were in love, did it make you do something silly? And then a lot of hands go up, you know? Well, then, long story short, I tell them, fear is as powerful as an emotion as love. And fear can cost you like half of your cognitive ability. So they're going to take a cognitive exam while experiencing fear. It's the fear of failure, the fear of maybe being judged by colleagues or family or whoever else. All right. And then, but with this, there's, you know, they show up and one of the things we do that I think helps people the most when they'll come to one of our cognitive exam preps is we try to uplift their emotions a little bit, you know? So the first little piece of a day of that type of training is leadership mindset, and we try to build their spirit up, raise them up a little bit. I don't ever like to say I want to step down to their level to try to explain something to them. I don't want to do that. I want to reach down and grab hold of them and lift them up to mine. And so we do that, and then move into some of the material. But like I say, the reason we do that is because of been there. And I remember having to drive from one end of our state to the other to take a refresher. And on the way back, having to pull over and try to look through my vehicle and find just a few extra bucks. Thankfully, I found a couple extra bucks and some uniform pants,
Right.
just to have enough gas to get home, pick
Right.
up my paycheck. And so I think about that now and how blessed I am nowadays. So I just feel it's important to give that back.
Well, I think one of the things, and right there, just the vulnerability, and you talking about your situation in there, because this is not something new. Because I'll reveal myself, and I'm not the only one. I failed mine as well.
Yeah.
Paramedic as well.
You've been a program director.
And I've been a program.
Yeah.
When I first did this, we passed over. I don't know when you took yours, but I passed. We paid pen and paper. So the question was, did you get the big envelope or the little envelope?
I still have the envelopes on my desk, and I shared it with students.
And all of them were like, I got the big envelope. I got the big envelope, and I got home and I got
4 times.
I got the small. Luckily, mine was one. But I got the small envelope. We looked past. If you would take, I had a passing score overall. Failed the airway by one question. And it was. You just take that, and then 5 others in our class. Some of the top of the class, and so I love that vulnerability to say, I understand. That sucks. I don't know that there's any way to put that.
And I like to tell people too is the number of times you had to take your test. Some people may argue different, but at the end of the day, failure never defines you.
First attempt in learning.
Yes, exactly.
First attempt in learning.
Failure does not define you. Failure is not permanent. And for all intents and purposes, I think that, failing this test does not necessarily predict what your future is going to be in this business.
I love the commentary you hear. What do you call a doctor that makes a 70?
A doctor.
A doctor,
That's
right?
exactly
And actually, believe it or not, some of the best that are out there because they're carrying compassion.
At one point, they had to flip a switch and get serious about it. And when they did, they became awesome.
Right.
That's what we try to do.
And ultimately, I love the mindset component first because I think that's absolutely something we have to look at. I talk a lot when I'm mentoring some of them right now, and one of the things I said, your mindset going into the test, are you going to go in with that mindset that I'm going to fail again, or am I going to go into that mindset that I'm going to pass, and then back up or work backwards from that and say, okay, not only am I going to pass this test, but I'm going to be the best studying or prepping for that as going in. I use the analogy of Kobe Bryant. He talks, it's not necessarily Kobe Bryant himself, but somebody who was going to go play against Kobe Bryant.
Right.
His coach said, I'm going to put you on, Kobe. You're going to be guarding him. And he's like, so I'm going to go into the gym. We were at their facility. I was going to go into the gym, get some shots in because I was playing Kobe. So I get there.
Against the challenge.
And he's like, I get there, and Kobe is already in the gym working out. So he's like, I'm going to get my shots in. I'm like, 30 minutes. Kobe's not going to be there that long. Kobe's there. And so I'm going to go longer. He went longer. Finally, he said, I got to go rest up and get ready for the game. So after the game, he's like, why were you there so long? The guy asked Kobe. He goes, because I knew I was going to guard you. And he was going to always outwork. He had the mindset that he was going to prep. But that was in practice. That wasn't in the game. He knew he was going to the game. He'd already taken that shot. So I love the mindset component. Yeah. So you've been doing this for a little while.
That's your 23rd year.
And as we take a look at these students, what's some of the things as far as the areas of concern when it comes to the testing itself that is the bigger issue?
Some of that, we start off, like I say, we go through our mind. One of the biggest concepts that I share with people is that only like less than 1% of people who challenge one of these cognitive exams run out of time. They got to stop rushing. And I tell them, be patient with yourself. If you're going to fail a test, fail because you ran out of time.
Right.
Don't fail because you rushed, felt pressure, overlooked a key word in the STEM, or possibly a key word and a distractor that made you think it was the key to unlock the STEM. So we'll go from there. And there's a couple other key points. We talk about, looking at address. Is this a question about a scene or a situation, or is this a question about a patient? On the AEMT test and the paramedic test, it seems as if most patient questions are a higher acuity. So a lot of the key findings and key interventions that need to be done lie in the primary assessment. So we focus on a quick review of primary assessment in a kind of a realistic sense. It's very timely, and we go from there. So we come through some of those, we come out of some of those concepts and ideas, and then we introduce them into what has proven to be a very, very, very useful tool. And if we got somebody out there that's an EMS educator and they don't know about it, it is a public document. It is not something that's you're not supposed to give to people. The National Registry has this on their website as a resource. Folks oftentimes don't know that a resource exists, and it's the NCCP model. That was the National Core Competency Program. They actually, so if you click on there and go to cognitive exams, scroll down to the bottom, and then where it says NCCP or recertification, whatever, you click that, scroll right back down to the bottom again, and you can download the EMR, the EMT Basic, the AEMT, the paramedic. Then it takes the educator or even the student who wants to really know what I need to be studying. It links them over to this document in an outline format, and it covers airway, oxygenation, respiration, ventilation, that part, the cardiology, the medical, the trauma, and the operations. And it literally hits the highest points of all of the 5 of those sections. And I tell people, when you're studying, hit these high notes. You're not trying to make a perfect score. This is entry level.
All right.
Yeah. So on that NCCP document, again, for whatever level of license you're teaching or studying for on your own, it breaks it all down in those 5 sections. It's a really good tool. See, I tell people, we're not trying to make a 100. We talked about that. I tell them, don't seek perfection. If you're seeking perfection, you're going to die tired.
Right, very much.
So
very
seek
much.
progress, not perfection. So we hit on that. And then there's a couple key areas that not just students, I use this with the students, but it's also great for educators to know. So if you're an EMS educator, I think it's really important. The word triage, when it comes to preparing people for the registry test, it's in 2 different categories of your 5 categories that they have to pass. You got triage, that word is seen in operations, and the word triage is seen in trauma. And in operations, triage is going to be mass casualty.
Right.
Start, jump start, and all this. But also, if you see when we talk about triage and trauma, talking about the majority of what that is, that's one single patient, and they don't understand that's
Prioritizing. Prioritizing the
destination. Yes. The 2011 CDC destination guidelines. And so then it's important for the students and the educators to know they really need to emphasize those 4 categories, that's in that document. And because that alone could be a trauma question.
Right.
And you know as well as I do, it only takes 1 or 2 questions, right or wrong, in each section, fail or pass.
Yeah.
So these are just some of the things that we have discovered. This is all discoveries, and we try to share it. Anything you learn, go here and share and maybe help people. That's what we've been trying to do. And this pre-con here that we did at the 2022 TEMSEA conference, it was the second time we have tried to just dump that in the laps of other educators.
I think there's a lot to that. Obviously we want them to pass on the first time. We want to. We know that there's going to be stuff. There's a lot. Exactly. Then you don't have a class. You freed up a little bit.
Yeah.
But thank you for everything you've been doing.
Absolutely.
If they wanted to get a hold of you, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's B. Dyer. So Brent Dyer is my name. So B-D-Y-E-R at Sumner, SUMNER-EMS.org. We've got some YouTube videos out there. We've got social media. And be glad to reach out. And also, we don't make this stuff proprietary. We just try to share what we have. We don't share anything as copyright or anything. You know, we point people to those resources. But yeah, anything we can do to help anybody out there, we're willing to.
Well, thank you for your service and everything you're doing, and keep doing the good work. All right.